We are going to appreciate you being here, and we're going to start with a few morning blessings. That's a very, very brief morning blessings on page 37. Please rise.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan laseh bina l'achim b'yom u'b'layla. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shesani b'tzalmo. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shesani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shesani ben cholim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokeh achili. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam malbish arumim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokef kefufim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam boka haaretz al hamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shesali kol tzorki. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamechi mitzadei gaber. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ozer Yisrael b'gvura. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam oter Yisrael b'tifara. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hanoten la'ed roah.
Amen. We're going to go all the way to page 69 now. And we can be seated for this.
Ha'el b'ta'atzimot uzecha, Ha'gadol b'choshenecha, Ha'gibor ha'netzach v'noha b'notecha. Chasidim titkadosh, ukel kedoshim titkadosh. Shekin chovat hoya yotzurim lefanecha Adonai Eloheinu Elohei avoteinu, lehodot lehalel, leshabech lefa'el, lehomei lehalel, levareira leukales, al kol tuvei shirot v'tishbachot, Lavi bin Yishai Abdecha Meshikecha Yishtabach Shimcha La'akim Ve'achot ve'hodarot me'ata ve'adolam Baruch atah Adonai El Melech Gadol v'tishbachot El ha'odot Adonai nifla'ot Haboher b'shirei zimra Melech Elchei Ha'olamim Yikadal v'yikadash Shemei Avraham Ve'amat yivachiyotei Ve'ameich malchutei V'chayechon u'yumechon Chayei lechol Beit Yisrael Va'agalo b'zman karim Ye'imehu Amen Yehi Shmei Baba Me'golam Le'olam olam Me'amayka Yitbarach ve'yishtabach V'yitparim olam v'yitnaseh Ve'yithadar v'yitaleh V'yitalav Shemel Kudisha Rihu Le'ela Le'ela Mikol Bechata V'Shiata Tush Bechata V'Neche Mamata Dami Ram B'Alma Amen.
Please rise for the Baruch Hu, page 71.
Yotzeo lechoshech oseh shalom u'eat ha'kol Olam yotzah ha'chayim Ot me'ofel ha'marayim.
We jump to page 75. Toward the bottom of the page.
Or Kadash al Zion Tahir V'nizkei Kulanu Me'oleo Baruch Atah Adonai Yotzer HaMe'or Ahavat Adonai Eloheinu V'havienu l'shalom me'alpah k'mfot ha'aretz v'torichenu k'miyud le'artzenu ki opo yeshuot atah uvanu v'achata mikol ben ha'lashon v'keratanu l'shimcha hagados v'emet v'hadod l'chagu yafecha v'ha'arama Baruch atah Adonai Aboher v'yamo Yisrael v'kahava Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher Hotzeiti Etchem Me'eretz Mitzrayim Li'olavem Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem Amen.
We're going to jump to the top of page 80.
Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha שירה חדשה שבחו גאולים, לשמחה שפת קיים, יחד כולם מוג'בים לכו ועמהו, אדוני אימו לעולם ועד. Su Israel, Umar Ezrat Israel, Uvdei Mecha, Yehuda ve'Yisrael, Lo Aleinu Adonai Tzvaot Shemo, Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch atah Adonai, God Yisrael.
Page 252, the Yom Kippur Amidah, we begin out loud and together. We'll do a repetition in Musaf. We start together at 252 now.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elokei avoteinu, Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzhak, Elokei Yaakov, Elokei Tzchak, Elokei Rivka, Elokei Rachel, Elokei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagivor ve'Hanokah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'koneh Hakol, Ve'zocher Chasdei Hakol, U've'ki Gomer Lifnei Pnehem, Le'ma'an Shemo Le'am. Yisor Chachamim U'nevonim, U'milemed Ha'akalim, Efter Chafei B'Tefillah U'Tachanonim, Lechalot U'chanem Pnei Melech Malchei Rachamim, Mocher V'Soleach Baronim.
253.
Zochreinu Lechayim, Melech Hafetz B'Chayim, Lechodeinu B'Sefer B'Chayim, Le'mancha Elohim Chayim, Melech Ozer, Ufokeinu Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Ufokeh Yitzhak. Amen. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayim Mitim atah le'hoshia, Mechalkel Chaim b'chesed, Mechayim Mitim berachamim rabim, Somech nofim ve'ofet horim, U'matir asurim, U'layem emunatav li'shem le'afa, Nichamocha ba'al gevurot, U'midom elav, Melech meremi u'mefayeh, U'matzliach Yeshua. Nichamocha Avraham, Zocher Yetzurah B'chaim V'rachamim, V'ne'eman atah V'ha'achayot metim,
Just that one line. Now page 257. 257. Continue now on our own, pages 258 through 200 and not sure yet, but let's keep going. 258 through 270. 258 through 270. 171, and we're going to rise for Avinu Malkeinu. We invite Asher and Federica Mecklin to come on up at this time. They're going to open the ark. And we invite Alicia Van Kumpin to come up and sing the Max Janowski version of Avinu Malkeinu, and then when she's finished, Mark Fickus will lead us in the refrain that we can all sing along with.
Avinu Malkeinu
is closed. Say Yasher Koach. We may be seated for the Kaddish Shalem, page 272. 272.
יקרא ויקדש מאהבה, יאמן ימלך יותר יום נתמכותי, וחייכון ומכון חיי לכל בית ישראל, ואקרא לו בזמן קריב וימנעו. אמן. אש מנעמה ומורה, ואומר מאמיה יקרא. יתברך וישתבח, יתפאר ויתרומם יתנשא, יתהדר ויתעלה ויתלש מקודשה. לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה, תושלפת ונחמתה דנירה מעמה וימלאו. תקבל סותרון ובטחון בכל ישראל, קודם אברהם דבשמיא וימלאו. יש למרבה מן שמיא, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל וימלאו. עושה שלום במרומיו, ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל יושבי תבל וימלאו.
Thank you, Mark, for leading us so beautifully in Shachari. Before proceeding to the Torah service, a couple of announcements. I may make them again. Please leave your mask on at all times unless you're leading the service, as we do have a number of seniors, a lot of people, and immunocompromised people. So through the end of Yom Kippur, masks are still required. Should there be an emergency, there are emergency exits all over the place. Off both wings of the bima, out the door right to my right, which leads to the courtyard, the door by the elevators, and out the center doors and down the steps. All right, we are going to begin our Torah service on page 274. We invite Sammy and the Ora Ragadis to stand by the ark in preparation for its opening. And our Torah carriers, Eve Van Kugelman and Ari Kelly, here?
Yeah, they're in the front.
All right, so make your way down. I see them there. They're very tall.
This is a
As we begin on page 274 with In Kamocha.
En kamocha Elohim Adonai v'ma'asecha malchutecha malchut kol olamim u'memshaltecha lechol dor v'dor. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimlok le'olam va'ed. Adonai oz le'lo yitein, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Aramim etiva betzon ha'eretz Sion. Tibet omar Yerushalayim. Tibet omar Yerushalayim. Kivecha levad batavnu, melech elram melisa Adon olamim.
You rise as the ark is open.
Vayehi b'mtzoa Haron ayomer Moshe, Uma Adonai ve'afutzu oivecha ve'yanusu v'sanecha mipanecha. Ki Zion tetzeh Torah, Ki Zion tetzeh Torah, u'devar Adonai
We're going to be on page 276. Yizkor Torah are handed to Ari. We're on page 276, and when the Torahs process around the room, I will be walking with one of them with my hands behind my back. So, no shaking hands to pass on the terms from person to person.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu,
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh v'nora Shemo. Gadol Adonai iti, uneromem Shemo Yahdav. Lecha Adonai ha'Yehuvah, leHaTifurah, leHaTiferet, leHanetzach, leHaHod. Yivmo b'shamayim u'ba'aretz, Yivmo b'shamayim u'ba'aretz. Le'Adonai ha'mamlaka, le'Hamikdash le'Levo le'Rosh. Romemu, Romemu, Adonai Eloheinu, ve'nishtacharu, la'Hadom
That's wrong, bro.
Romemu,
Adonai. What if I should go back and get that? Get ours. See here?
Yeah, so I'm coming to
Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Yisrael, Yimu Amen. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom.
right, we may be seated. We're going to turn to the Torah reading on page 278. It is the passage of the scapegoat, the literal scapegoat. It's a term we use often in association with the Holocaust or with anti-Semitism, but this is the actual scapegoat where it comes from, where the sins of the people are placed upon the goat. And one goat wanders off into the wilderness, and the other is sacrificed to God. And when we use it metaphorically, I mean, that I'm talking about everybody placing their blame on the Jews or other people who are scapegoated. But in this case, this is the actual where it actually comes from. It's on page 278. Do we have Yizkor and Aaron Belikoff? Yeah, okay, good. At least one of them. Both of them, maybe. As long as there's one. Oh, no, they are. They're both there. Thank you. So their first aliyah will be on page 278. We call upon Yizkor and Aaron Belikoff for the aliyah, and Aurora Dornhelm Campbell to read the Torah.
Baruch hu et Adonai Hamgorah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai unoten haTorah. Amen.
We're now on page 279 for the second aliyah. We call upon two past presidents of Dreidel Azier, Avi Paulson, and Daniel Ilfeld. And for the Torah reading, we call upon Amalia Dornell Campbell.
Yom Du, Avi ben David Yizkor, ben Nathanael, ben Ephraim, Yochana, Sheni.
Asher b'achar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torah Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. ולקח את שני השעירים, והעמיד אותם לפני אדוני, בתוך אוהל מועד. ונתן אהרון על שני השעירים גורלות, גורל אחד לאדוני, וגורל אחד לעזאזל. והקריב אהרון את השעיר אשר עלה עליו הגורל לאדוני, ועשהו חטאת. והשעיר אשר עלה עליו הגורל לעזאזל יעמד לפני אדוני לכפר עליו, ושלח אותו לעזאזל המדברה. והקריב אהרון את פר החטאת אשר לו, והיכר בעדו ובביתו, ושחט את פר החטאת אשר לו.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah v'chayei olam natan b'tokenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Third Aliyah, page 279. We call upon Eva Katz to read the Torah and Leah Stiles for the Aliyah.
Ta'amad, Anamasha bat Shmuel, Aaron bat Basha, Shlishi.
ושחט את שעיר החטאת אשר ראה הפרחת, לעשות המלך, כאשר עשו לדם הפר, והזרת על הכפורת ולפני הכפורת, וכיפר הקודש, מצומאות בני ישראל, ומפגישתם לחוכמתם, וכן יעשה לאוהל מועד, השופט איתם, בתוך תשובתם, וכל אדם לא יהיה לאוהל מועד, במאוד, וחפר בקודש עד צאתו, וכיפר באדום עד ביתו, ובעד כל כלל ישראל.
Sure we have what don't think are here are in fact not here. Are the Entebis or Ari Goldberg here? Oh, all right, come on up. We couldn't spot you. All right, excellent. Ari is our next Torah reader. And we call upon Aviv Berlin for the Aliyah. Page 280.
Tziharo v'kibsho mitumot b'nei Yisrael v'chila mikaper et hakodesh v'yeto ha'moed v'yet ha'mizbeach v'hikriv et ha'sa'ir hechai v'samach Aharon et shtei yadav al rosh ha'sa'ir ha'chai v'tzvada alav את כל הבנות בני ישראל ואת כל פשעיהם וכל חטאתם ונתן אותם על ראש השעיר ושילח ביד חיצי המדברה ונשא השעיר עליו את כל הבנותם על ארץ גזירה ושילח את השעיר במדבר ובא אהרון עלו המועד ושת את בגדי הבת אשר לבש באוהל הקודש והניחם שם. ורחץ את בשרו במים במקום קדוש ולבש את בגדיו ויצא ועשה את תולתו ואת תולת העם וכיפר בעדו לעם.
We're now on page 281 for the fifth Aliyah. And call upon Rebecca Johnson to read the Torah and Joseph and Talia Blumberg for the Aliyah. Ari, thank you for coming home from college. I know it's only Berkeley, but appreciate it. Coming home and reading Torah. And none of us could find you, and you were like right in front of me.
Yamdu. Yosef ben Eliyahu. Talia bat Eliyahu. Ramishi.
Bottom paragraph 281. And this is the one where it actually talks about what Yom Kippur is all about, which it translates as practicing self-denial. The Hebrew is initem et nafshotechem, which means actually afflict your soul or afflict your body, depending on how you want to translate that. And from that we get the fasting. We call upon Julia Johnson to read the Torah and Noah Gefkin for the Aliyah.
Noah.
Yes, that's correct.
Noah ben Zivia. Shishi.
Shabbat Torah,
Please rise as the second Torah scroll is brought to the table. Kaddish is recited. Remain standing for Haggadah and Galila. We call upon Bruce and Alicia Van Rugen. We're going to be on page 282, the bottom. Not quite seated yet until the Torah is completely. may be seated, bottom of page 282. The Mafsher Aliyah comes from Numbers chapter 29, verses 7 through 11. Additional offerings brought on the holiday. We call upon Zachary Sparks to read the Torah, and for the Mafsher Aliyah, Charlotte Ragnus. Thank you so much to all of our Torah readers, Aurora, Amalia, Eva, Ari, Rebecca, and Zachary. Beautifully, beautifully done. And credit to the students themselves, but also to Susan Simon, our Director of Education. We're very proud of, honestly, the training that our students receive here. Are Jill and Jeannie here for Misha Barak and Judy? Good, come on up at this time. Thinking especially today of Scott Lawrence, Valia Bat Razel, Barbara Rose, Ilya Bonk, Karina Gola Bat Hadabat Yehuda Tzvi, Levi Bat Shena, Shabtai Dov Ben Shimon Moshe, Ray Ramshaw, Rosie German, Yechiel Ben Aliza, Shulamit Bat Leah, Marina Gotcha, Eliza Bat Raphael Ben Esther, Moshe Ben Ruvain, Aaron McCann, Patricia de la Puente Rose, Rachel Shulamit Bat Yehudi, Leroy Muzzy, Rachel Bat Esther Fruma, Yitzchak Ben Natan Basara, Mary Beth Shu Brower, Una Rivka Bat Shmuel Bapola, Yoni Yosef Ben Shmuel, Eliana Bat Gila Badon, Yoshua Ben Malka Tova, Uma Bat Essie Baruven, Ariel Chaim, and Misha Bat Edis. If you have any other names of those who are ill that you'd like to add to our prayers today, just say them out loud right now.
Bless us with
second Haggadah Glila, we call upon David and Jill Lindenbrock. All right, maybe seated. Before we do the Haftarah, I want to introduce, we have some members of the general community here. One is not quite here yet. I think we'll introduce her when she gets here, which is our mayor, Libby Schaff, unless she is here yet. But our city council member, Lauren Taylor, is here. If you just want to stand up so we can say hi. And both Lauren and Mayor Schaff were here, I don't know, a year and a half ago, one of the many times where anti-Semitism was really, really immediate and prevalent, and they stood with other community members and city council members and mayors from all over the East Bay in our courtyard, and were standing up against anti-Semitism with the JCRC, the Jewish community. So thank you for that, and thanks for being here today on our holiest day of the year. And in a moment, Charlotte will be chanting the Haftarah on page 284. And this is Isaiah, and he talks about how the fasts are meaningless unless they're accompanied by an understanding that there are poor and hungry in our community. And which is a reminder also to please bring those bags of food for the canned food drive. There'll be other opportunities to donate money directly too as part of the turkey drive. But if you want to, this is a great thing especially to do as a family with your kids, go to the grocery store, pick out some things. I've even bought non-kosher food on occasion for this drive. It's kind of fun. Just kidding. Anyway, what do pork and beans look like anyway? But, in any case, I should not be talking about food of any kind right now. So on with the Haftarah for Charlotte, page 284.
Baruch atah Adonai, habocher b'Torah u'Moshe avdo, u'Yisrael amno, u'B'niyei ha'emet b'Yisrael. Kilo le'olam arif ve'lo lanetzach erzov. Ki ruach milfanai atov u'nshamot ani asiti bavon mitzvot. Tatzavti ve'akehu haster b'ksov va'elach shovav ve'derech libo derachav ra'iti ve'arbe'ehu v'yanchehu v'ashaylem mikumi lo le'la'avelav borei niv sefatayim shalom shalom l'rachot ve'lakarot Amar Adonai orfativ v'harshayim kayam migrash ki hashket lo yuchal yibrishu minat refesh vativ ein shalom amar Elohai l'rashayim Dira le'aron al tatzov kashofar ha'rein kulecha v'hagei le'amid bisham u'beit Yaakov chatotam Beauty Yom Yom Yiroshu V'da'at Rachai Yechotsun V'zoi Asher Tzraka Asa U'mishpat Elohav Lo Asa Yishavuni Mishpatei Tzedek Kirvat Elohim Yechotsun Lama Tzamnu V'lo Ra'ita Ininu Nafshenu V'lo Teda Himeyot Tzon Chem Tinsu Fechet V'cholatz V'chem Timdosu Hin L'riv U'matzat Tatsumu U'l'hakod V'krov Resha Lo Tatsumu Chayom L'hashmiya B'marom Kulechem Hachazeh Yehiyeh Tzom Echarehu Yom Anot Adam Nafsho Halachot Yigamon Rosho V'saf Ve'ever Yatziyah Halazeh Tikratzon Ve'yom Ratzon L'Adonai Halozeh Tzom Echarehu Pateach Hertzibod Resha Hater Agudot Motah V'shalach Hertzitzim Chopshim V'chomotat Teratehu Halo Faroz L'ra'ev Lachmecha Ve'ani'im Merudim Tavivai Yitzareh Avram V'chitzito U'mivzaracha Lo Titalam Azivakat Hashachar Orecha Va'aruchatecha Meherat Yitzmach V'halach Lifanecha Tzivkecha Yevod Adonai Aspecha Az Tifrach Adonai Yaneh Tishafa Ve'omar Hineni Im Tasir Mitochecha Mota Shelach Etzba V'Averaben V'Tafei V'Ra'ev Nafshecha V'Nefesh Nana Tasbiya V'Zarach V'Choshech Orecha V'Afelatecha Katzahorayim V'Nachacha Adonai Tamid V'Hizkiya V'Satzachot Nafshecha V'Atzmotecha Yechalit V'Hayita Kigad Raveh V'Kmotza Amayim Asher Lo Yichazbu Mimav Uvanu Mimecha Korbot Olam Mosei Drovador Tekomein V'Korah Lecha Goder Peretz Mishobev Nitivot Lashabet Im Tashiv Mishabat Raglecha Asot Chafatzecha V'Yom Koshi V'Karata L'Shabbat Oneg L'Kdosh Adonai Mekubad V'Kivadeto E'asot Jerachecha Nimsoch Hefzecha V'Daber Dava Az Titanad Al Adonai V'Dir Kakticha Al Bamotei Aretz V'Ha'achalticha Nachavat Yaakov Avicha Hi Adonai Diver Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam קודשך נשבעת לו, שלא ייתן יבוא לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן דוד. על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הימים ועל יום הכיפורים הזה, שנתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו, למחילה ולשמחה ולכפרה, להראות ולתפארת. על הכל אדוני אלוהינו, אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך, יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד. יתברך נפי קיים לעד. ברוך אתה אדוני, מלך וסולח לעוונותינו ולעוונותם בבית ישראל, ומעביר אותנו בכל שנה ושנה. מלך כל הארץ, מקדש ישראל. מלך כל הארץ, מקדש ישראל. מלך כל הארץ, מקדש ישראל. ביום הכיפורים.
So much, Charlotte. I guess we only get 2 more years of that, most likely here. As a 10th grader. So beautifully done. Before Yizkor service, you see, sitting on the bima today are the Board of Trustees. I found somehow miraculously here a cast signed by Connor from Dear Evan Hansen, given to me by the lead this past summer when I saw Zachary Noah Beiser in Dear Evan Hansen on Broadway. We also have with us today Zachary's mom, one of our incredibly fabulous caterers, usually does the Gala Gourmet. We have Jing Beiser. And so, perhaps better known by his wife and son, but still, Joel Beiser, an amazing human being in and of himself, really. Joel is a true mensch, and we've been lucky to have him as a part of our congregation for the entire time that I've been here. Also a fabulous Moyle. And anyway, a member of the Board of Trustees, so thank you, Joel, who's now going to address the congregation.
I think the best part is I get to take off my mask. All right. Good morning. At the very start, let me say that we all have something in common. Yeah, you don't know what I'm going to say. And I, quite frankly, don't know how you're going to receive it. But I'm here to speak. You're here to listen. Let's just hope we finish at the same time. First, a little historical perspective. This is my 4th time over the last 20 years having the opportunity to give the appeal on behalf of the Board of Trustees. Like previous times, I was nominated by my fellow trustees in abstention after I again showed up late to the quarterly meeting. But this time, Jing and I were actually officiating a bris. And well, as the saying goes, no good deed goes unpunished. You know, it's very challenging to come up with new and innovative ways to convince you, my fellow congregants, to contribute your hard-earned dollars to help secure the long-term financial viability of TBA. First, I have to come up with some compelling reasons to give, combine it with a little bit of humor, and of course, personal experience. Quite frankly, it's hard to come up with new material. So I'm going to initially rely on some material from my previous speeches. First, a little humor, or at least my attempt at it. My all-time favorite. You may ask how I, a now retired urologist and still practicing Moyle, gets appointed by my eminently more qualified fellow trustees to discuss temple finances. Believe me, I asked myself the same question. But quite frankly, the more I thought about it, the more I realized that performing a bris and soliciting donations for the shul are actually quite similar. No one wants it to be too painful, and they don't want me to take too much. And speaking of the memorial business, Jing and I are entering our 32nd year as Mohalim in the Bay Area. As surgeons in our professional lives, being a Moel and a Mohelet gave us a unique couples avocation with opportunities to meet young families as they begin teaching their children the customs and rituals of Jewish life. For many families, it's their gateway to re-exploring their commitment to Judaism. We have found it very meaningful to engage with young parents as they begin the journey of connecting their newborn son with our traditions. There's something very powerful about this celebration of new life that inspires families to strengthen their Jewish identity. It's palpable. From the moment parents contact us with questions regarding how the whole process works, examining their own Jewish backgrounds, and current affiliations in Jewish life. And after Brit Milah comes synagogue affiliation. What a perfect segue. Now comes the personal experience. Jing and I have been members of TBA for over 35 years. First, shul shopping on a Friday evening service, where we were warmly greeted by Rabbi Joe Schoenwald, who led us together through Jing's conversion and our marriage right here on this beam. The Gan, Beit Sefer, and Rabbi Bloom's enthusiasm helped nurture our son Zachary, and along the way, we've acquired great friendships and a true sense of community. TBA was there to support me with Shiva minions when my parents passed, and continues to offer our family a comprehensive Jewish experience. Jane studied and trained to be a mishkiach, and the TBA kitchen has given her a place to hone and broaden her kosher culinary skills. Those who have savored her offerings know Jing can cook. Forgive me, Martin Yan. When I recently asked Zachary what TBA meant to him, he enthusiastically replied, and I quote, "TBA is where I made my first friends, my first challah, sang my first solo, and where I learned the true meaning of community. It's where I discovered what it meant to be a mixed-race Jew." He continued, "Rabbi Bloom has been an incredibly important member of our family's inner circle for over 2 decades. He encouraged me to sing at Rock and Roll Shabbat, daven Shachrit and Musaf at my bar mitzvah, and has continued to be a mentor and friend well past my confirmation. He has actively supported me in my professional endeavors on the Broadway stage." And he says, "Rabbi, your Jewish guilt is working. I look forward to the year I can accept your request to recite Kol Nidre for my TBA family." Now the compelling reasons to give money. This is the place we all come for spiritual enlightenment through communal prayer, where we fulfill our obligations to educate our children in the Jewish way of life. It is here we collectively identify with 4,000 years of our history. With the help of Rabbi Bloom and all of our Jewish educators, TBA is the focal point where we strive to clarify and interpret Judaism. We are a wonderfully diverse community who share the common goals of pursuing justice and tikkun olam. This is our sanctuary. It physically and spiritually houses our collective Jewish souls. This is where it starts for our young families, where we educate our kids, participate in life cycle events, and search for personal fulfillment as we incorporate Jewish values and traditions into our daily lives. Our TBA community is alive and well, and we got a great thing going here. We have over 150 kids in the Gan and Beit Sefer. It's amazing. But we need everyone's financial commitment to sustain TBA. Each of us should approach raising money for the temple as a reaffirmation of our commitment to Judaism. Generous contributions to both the endowment and general funds should be viewed as every family's obligation, with 100% participation, the expectation, and ultimate goal. Those who can afford to give more should. We have a responsibility not only to TBA members of the present, but to future generations. Your financial support is absolutely necessary to vitalize this centerpiece of our Jewish expression. With your pledges, we will expand to meet the needs of our rapidly growing community and build an even stronger bond amongst all of us. You know, we Jews are survivors, suffering through 40 years in the desert, unrelenting anti-Semitism, expulsion from just about everywhere we've resided, and navigating through pogroms and the Holocaust. We have learned what it takes to endure and thrive. Planning for future generations as we strive to keep God's covenant is the cornerstone of our continued survival. Your TBA Board of Trustees sitting before you today is charged with making sure the financial resources are there to fulfill this commitment. The Equipment Endowment Fund was created for the benefit of the TBA community. Its mission is to support the long-term solvency of the synagogue and provide supplemental funding as needed to sustain the synagogue's major endeavors. Its mission statement includes investment objectives to achieve optimal long-term total return, preservation of capital, and investments that reflect the principles of Tikkun Olam and Tzedakah. Now, things have gotten better in terms of temple finances over my last 20 years on the Board of Trustees. The endowment fund used to have to supplement the annual TBA budget just to meet ongoing monthly expenses. But because of our enthusiastic membership increase over the last number of years, now I think just shy of 500 families, and generous donors like yourselves, the Board of Trustees' efforts center more on growing the endowment and supplying funding for major repairs and capital projects. These include major contributions to the Centennial Fund, the Next Big Thing, and most recently, the repair of the parapet, or as I like to call it, the $450,000 kippah that surrounds our sanctuary. But despite the increase in membership, the effects of inflation on expenses has made it even more important to have a robust endowment. The current equipment endowment stands at about $2.4 million. That sounds like a lot of money. The temple's annual budget is a whopping $2.2 million, which means the endowment could only cover a little more than a year of expenses to keep the temple fully operational. It's imperative that we continue to grow equipment endowment so TBA can financially weather the inevitable storms ahead. As the new year begins and we conclude this period of Teshuvah, we are asked to reevaluate our lives and account for all of our actions. please take this opportunity to rethink your family's financial commitment to Temple Beth Abraham. I ask all of us to find a way to give a little more than we have in the past. The generosity we demonstrate today will ensure that we continue to thrive and provide a lasting legacy for all the families that will follow. You know, as I wrote this appeal speech, I was reminded of the many Yom Kippur appeals I sat through as a child back in South Bend, Indiana, at Sinai Synagogue. Trust me, there were a lot more tense, anxious congregants as the feisty, often confrontational appeal speaker publicly called people out from the bima, extorting them to give money. Okay, relax. That's not our style at TBA. But it does remind me of the old joke that the only thing two Jews can agree upon is how much the third Jew should give for their Yom Kippur donation. Or how about this? I give the guilt, you give the gelt. Yeah. The Yom Kippur tickets used today are also pledge cards. If you've not already mailed in your pledges, please take a moment to indicate your level of support and pass them to the aisles for collection. And for those of you viewing remotely, you can give at the TBA website, tbaoakland.org, under the column of Giving, original, or directly at tbaoakland.org/appeal. And for those who were so inspired by this appeal that I gave, and you want to give more than the suggested amounts, I'd be happy to meet with you personally at any time to graciously accept your donation. And in keeping with the rabbi's theme this year, anything I can do to grease your wallet, I'd be happy to do. In closing, I will paraphrase an old Yiddish proverb. If you're looking for a helping hand, there's one at the end of your arm. I would add that at the end of my arm are all of your hands. Please use your hand today to generously support the future of Temple Beth Abraham. On behalf of Jane, Zachary, and my fellow trustees, we wish you a sweet, prosperous, and most importantly, a healthy new year. Gemar Hatimah Tova.
Right, so normally Raina comes around with a basket, but now we have various board members are up, so if you want to pass any cards to the aisles. If you already gave, thank you. Give again. And we'll just take a couple minutes for this, and then we will be starting our Yizkor service. Now, as I mentioned this, there are some people who do not stay for Yizkor service unless they have lost father, mother, sister, brother, son, daughter, or spouse. But don't go far, because Ashrei follows that for if you're a 7th or 8th grader. And after the Yizkor is the sermon as well, so just letting you know. So thank you. Keep collecting those cards, and everyone who wishes to stay for Yizkor, please retake your seat, and everyone who will not be, we'll see you hopefully, we'll see many of you hopefully in about 15 minutes. We're about to be on page 290. Page 290. And there is, I'd like to invite David Rosenthal and Dan Finkelstein to come up to the Bima. This time, they both lost a parent this year, and they'll be holding the Torah scrolls when we get to Kamalei Rachamim. We're top of 290, Adonai Ma'adam.
Adonai Ma'adam Vateilahu Ne'enosh Vatechashvehu Adam Lahedel Damaya Matzelo Ver Baboker Yatzir Vehalav La'erev Yemolel Ve'yavesh Limnot Yameinu Ein Hoda Le'navi Le'val Chochma
Teach us to count each day that we may acquire a heart of wisdom. On this solemn day, we each make judgments about the quality of our life. We re-examine our deeds and relationships with our community and with others. We express our yearnings for a new year, a new beginning, a year during which we commit ourselves to work toward bringing health and peace to all. We long for a year when individually and communally we shall strive to live in a way that is more reflective of the ideals that we cherish. And now, in the midst of looking at our life and assessing its quality, we pause to reflect and to remember, to dedicate ourselves anew.
Shivti Adonai L'nei Tamid Ki mimini ba'al Echemot Lachen samach libi Ve'yagel kevodi ha'besari Yishkon leveta.
The deaths of those we now remember left holes in our lives, but we are grateful for the gift of their lives, and we are strengthened by the blessing that they left us and the precious memories that comfort and sustain us as we recall them this day. We recall parents, spouses, brothers and sisters, children, relatives and friends. And though they are gone, we are grateful for the blessings they brought to our lives. We are sustained and comforted by the thought that their presence in our lives remains an enduring blessing that we can bequeath to others. Give us strength to live faithfully, for we are cheered by our confidence that you will not permit our lives to be wasted, but will bring all our worthy strivings to live on, even as we may not see their fulfillment. We rise now and we recite the Yizkor prayers which apply to us on page 291. May God remember the souls of our friends, members of this holy congregation who have gone to their eternal home. May these souls be bound up in the bond of life. May these moments of meditation strengthen the ties that link us to their memory. May they rest in peace forever in God's presence. Amen. On 292 we read together, Exalted, compassionate God, comfort the bereaved families of this congregation. Help us to perpetuate everything that was worthy in the lives of those no longer with us, whom we remember this day. May their memory endure as a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Thinking especially those beloved members and relatives who have passed away during this past year. If I missed someone, please forgive me. David Baum, Alana Blau, Chas Chittister, Ariel David, Theodore Finkelstein, Shirley Freierman, Ruth Glazer, Sherman Golub, Janet Gordon, Sydney Gordon, Molly Hirsch, Sid Horowitz, Harvey Jacobs, Cantor Richard Kaplan, Erwin Kanan, Kurt Kleinman, Frida Lewin, Marie Lorenz, Bernard Colston, Michael Rappaport, John Daniel Rigo, Kevin Romero, Tom Rose, Martin Rosenthal, Sheldon Schaefer, Regina Rinska-Shine, Martin Sherman, Jerry Turchin, Vera Zatkin. We now call upon Judy Bloomfield to recite the El Malay Rachamim for the 6 million perished in the Holocaust. And Dan and David, you're going to be handed the Torah scroll.
I just said the prayers for my mother and father, Chava Tzvi. They were both Holocaust survivors from Oradea, Romania, in the Transylvania region bordering Romania and Hungary. There was a thriving Jewish population there before World War II, and today the Jewish community is almost non-existent. My parents gave me life and love and purpose. And my thoughts turn now with all of you to the 6 million Jews killed in the Shoah. They were slaughtered, strangled, and burned. Shenechnaku, Shenizrafu, Shener Herbu. In the El Male prayer, we ask that the deceased be bound up in the bond of life, Soror Chachayim. We are commanded to remember them, Zachor, and we choose in this world that we live in today to remember them. May their lives be bound up in the bond of life and in the bond of our lives as we reflect on this holy day to choose to live our lives differently, to live our lives better. May the lives of the 6 million lost light our lives and give us purpose. El Malach Amitsen Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Shina B'malot Keroshim Utechorim Kizahar Kiyam Maskim Lenishmot Kol Achir B'nei Yisrael שנטבחו בשואה, אנשים, נשים וטף, שנחנקו, ושנשרפו, ושנהרגו, שמסרו את נפשם על קידוש השם, בגן עדן תמנוחתם, ענה בעל הרחמים, הסתירם בסתן כנפך הלאומים, וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמותיהם. Adonai hu nachalatam, yanuchu mishalom al mishkebotem, v'nomar
now in memory of all who perished.
B'malot keroshim uterim, kizor וצרור בצרור החיים, את נשמותיהם. אדוני ונחלתם, וינוחו בשלום את משפחותיהם ונאמר.
Master of mercy, may they find eternal shelter beneath your sheltering wings, and may their souls be bound up in the bond of life. Adonai is their portion, may they rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. I read that old language version in honor of Rabbi Herbert Morris, one of my mentors. Mourner's Kaddish, page 294. Yitkedal, Yitkedash, Me'erah, Ve'alma Nivrah Yeruteh, Ve'amlim Ma'uteh, Ve'chayechon, Yomechon, Ve'edevo, Ve'Yisrael, V'agalah, V'zman Kariv, V'imru, Yahesh Me, Rabban Torah, Le'olam Me'amaya, Yitrah, V'yishtabah, V'yihar, V'yimram, V'yinaseh, V'yitadar, V'yitaleh, V'yitabal, Shmei Kudishah, V'yiku, La'ela, La'ela, Mikol Berkata, V'shirata, Tushbekata, V'nehemata, Kamimano, Yama, V'yimru, Yehesh, Shmon, Rabban, Shemaya, V'chayim, Alim, Ve'al, Yisrael, V'yimru, O say Shalom, V'yimra, V'yaseh Shalom, Alim, Ve'al, Yisrael, V'yimru, Amen. May the memory of the people who you are coming here today to recall, may they always bless you. And let us say, Amen. Right, we may be seated, and if we want to, I don't know who is capable of running out there and telling the 7th and 8th graders, come on back, we need you. It's Oshrei time. Yeah, Elizabeth's one. Anyone else? Outside, social hall, wherever they may be hiding. Bring them in, and it's going to be Ashrei, followed by Return of the Torah, Secret Torah of the Ark, followed by the sermon, followed by Musaf. And then at 2 o'clock, Life After Death and Yom Kippur at 2 p.m. with Rabbi Berlin in the chapel. I know others will be walking around the lake. And Martyrology and Mincha will be starting at 4:30, not 4. So if you are a 7th or 8th grader, just come on up over to the main table and your classmates will join you. Come on up. Right over there. Torah to the ark, we invite our Torah carriers, Noah and Zaya Lindenbaum. And for the ark opening, Ellis Moss and Melissa Diamant. They're still here.
Yeah, hallelujah, Shem Adonai, Yizkor Shem Levado, Ono Aleem, Shamayim, Layalem, Elem Veyamo, Tilalemo, Asira, Livim Yisrael.
may be seated. Close our books for a few moments. I want you to just take a few seconds to think of a very Jewish-sounding first name. What in your mind is a very Jewish-sounding first name? All right, I heard some good ones. Anybody say Alexander or Alexandra? Anybody? Well, at one time, it was the most popular Jewish name in the world. It was a long time ago, like over 2,000 years ago, in the time of what we call the Hasmoneans, post-Maccabees. But it was a very, very popular name, and it's still a legitimate Hebrew name. It's in all my Hebrew naming books. And it was so popular, in fact, that there were two of the Jewish monarchs had that name. Alexander Jannaeus, and the one and only queen in the Jewish tradition, Salome Alexandra, given those names. There's a really interesting story about why that is the case. It's a midrash involving Alexander the Great, who from his seat in Greece was busy conquering, well, kind of the whole world. And he was on his way to conquer Jerusalem, and he had a dream. And in the dream, he was visited by an angel. And the angel said to him, "You must not conquer Jerusalem or you're going to die. And what's more, when you get to Jerusalem, you're going to see a man dressed in white, and you're going to bow down to him." Well, when Alexander the Great woke up, he was very angry. I mean, even in a dream, who's to tell him, the conqueror of the entire world, Alexander the Great, that he's going to bow down to somebody else? So he proceeds to Jerusalem, and when he gets to the gate, Hananiah the high priest comes out wearing white linen, and he greets him. And Alexander suddenly finds himself getting off his horse and bowing down to him. And he says, "Blessed be the God of Israel. In honor of your great and powerful God, I'm going to give you gifts of gold. But you must use the gold to build statues of me that you place in your temple. And in exchange for that, I will not conquer you." Well, Hananiah the high priest was afraid, but he told him anyway, "We can't do that. It's against our laws to put a graven image in our holy spaces. But I have an alternative. Please give us the gold anyway. And we're going to use it to feed the poor of our city. And instead of putting up a statue, any child born this year to a priestly family will have the name Alexander or Alexandra, to honor you, Alexander the Great." Well, this pleased him greatly, and he made a covenant of peace with Jerusalem, and therefore never conquered Israel or Jerusalem. It's a midrash, it's a story. But continuing the theme that we began on Erev Rosh Hashanah, in terms of lessons from Greeks or Greece, today we're going to get 3 lessons from Greekish, Jewish-ish things. And they're very different, but together they form a blueprint of how Judaism and the Jewish people can continue to survive and thrive. Now, lesson number 1 comes from the Maccabees. And most of you, maybe even all of you, know the story of the Maccabees very, very well, because you know the Hanukkah story. What's a little confusing is who's the enemy in the Hanukkah story. Depending on where you read it, sometimes it says Syrians, sometimes it says Greeks. In our liturgy, in what's called the Al-Hanisim, which we do during the Amidah Hanukkah, it's the Greeks. And what it actually was historically was the Seleucid dynasty, which was a Greek dynasty occupying basically the entire Middle East, including Syria. So for today's purposes, we're going to use Greeks. Now, the children's story, the story you know well, right? Wicked King Antiochus, he forbid the practice of Judaism of any kind. He set up statues of Zeus in the holy temple. And the Maccabees, led by Mattathias, his son Judah, they fought back, they rebelled, they won the war, the few against the many. They rededicated the temple. There was only enough oil to last for 1 day. It lasted for 8. We have the Hanukkah, and that's the Hanukkah story that you know well. But Paul Harvey-like, there is a rest of the story too that I imagine many of you are not as familiar with. It's more nuanced. It's actually a little bit scary, but it's important also, especially if we're going to learn true lessons from the Maccabees. See, the Maccabees were not only rebelling against Greece, they were also rebelling against other Jews, almost to the point of civil war. And these were Jews who wanted nothing more than to assimilate right into Greek culture. They were willing to forsake the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob for gods like Zeus and Apollo and Aphrodite. They wanted to participate fully in the Greek games of the time, which were done fully in the New, and so you actually had people altering their circumcisions. The Maccabees were rebelling against Jews who wanted nothing more than to leave these burdensome rituals as they considered them behind. Circumcision, the Shabbat, daily prayer. They wanted to pursue a much more hedonistic lifestyle. That was their goal. And so the Maccabees, well, they rebelled. We're still here. So the Maccabees won at this time. But it was a scary time for the Jewish people. And just a few hundred years later, there would be intra-Jewish hatred that would nearly destroy us. The lesson to me from the Maccabees, because you have to remember, they were not just warriors, they were also separatists and zealots. And the lesson to me is actually not to veer into either extreme, neither separation nor assimilation. Neither of those paths will continue the Jewish people. There are lots of ways that the Jews can be destroyed. One is, of course, at the hands of enemies. Another is at the hands of our friends. We can assimilate so far into whatever society we're living in that we can disappear. And that's happened in various places and times throughout Jewish history. But another way is that we can destroy ourselves from within through intra-Jewish hatred. The Second Temple, the Talmud tells us, was destroyed by intra-Jewish hatred, what they call sinat chinam, which is actually one of the al-chetz you're going to do in Musaf. Ceaseless hatred, but it's really Jew against Jew. And the lesson of the Maccabees is a painful one, but it's not to veer into either extreme, neither separation nor assimilation. Which leads us to lesson number 2, which comes from the most famous Greekish Jewish philosopher that you've never heard of, Philo Judaeus. And his lesson is the lesson of integration. Now, a little warning, this next part's kind of academic, and if you want to take a nap, this would be the time. But, I find it pretty cool. So, a little bit about Philo Judaeus, who was able to synthesize Greek and Jewish philosophy and thought like nobody else, at least until Maimonides over 1,000 years later. So he was technically not Greek. He was from Alexandria, Egypt, but Alexandria, also named after Alexander the Great, was one of the great seats of Hellenistic and Greek culture in that time, about 2,000 years ago. And Philo Judaeus was uniquely qualified to integrate Greek thought and Jewish thought because he was from the most prominent Jewish family in Alexandria, and he had a first-rate secular education and Jewish education. Reading him is really hard, and this is in any language. His language is obtuse, and he doesn't present like a systematic philosophy. You have to glean what he thinks from his verse-by-verse commentary on Genesis and Exodus. He didn't finish the Torah, he just did those 2 books. But there's a few real nuggets in there. And one of them is the way he was able to merge different views of God. What in theology we call the immanent and the transcendent. So the God of the Torah primarily is an immanent God. That means like immediate, right there, active in human history, interacting with the biblical figures, like Moshe or Sarah or Abraham. That's what God does in the Torah. The beauty of this view of God is that God's right there for us, with us, active in our lives, active in history. The challenge of that version of God is that God becomes anthropomorphic, human-like. And it's hard rationally for the modern mind, and I imagine even the ancient mind, to wrap your head around that. The God of Greek philosophy, on the other hand, is much more, by and large, a transcendent God, like up there. Transcendent, invisible, incorporeal, an idea, a process. And the advantage to this version of God is that it's more believable with our rational mind. And who wants God to be human, right? We want God to be perfect. Humans should be human, and God should be God. But the challenge of this version of God is that God becomes so transcendent that God is distant and almost irrelevant. And what Philo was able to do through allegory was merge these 2 things together. And the God of Judaism became immanent and highly personal, but at the same time transcendent and philosophically rational. Now, the other piece that I like is the way that Philo relates the way God related to each of the patriarchs individually. Abraham, God relates to through instruction, right? Commands, like Lech Lecha, go to a land that I'm going to show you. Increase my name there, increase your people. Isaac relates to God primarily through inspiration or faith. And you see this, both these things at work, in the binding of Isaac story, the Akedah that we read on the 2nd day of Rosh Hashanah, right? God gives Abraham the command to sacrifice his son, and Isaac goes along with it. He's no small child at this time. That's actually in our heads. He's pretty much an adult. So he could have stopped it at any moment, but because he had the inspiration and the faith to believe that everything would work out, he goes along. Jacob relates to God through mystical vision, like the vision of the ladder and the wrestling match. And so this is what Philo did, able to synthesize, at least in terms of theology, Greek thought and Jewish thoughts. And lesson number 2 is that I think Judaism is at its best when it integrates into society and integrates from society, when it doesn't fully assimilate and disappear, but doesn't remain completely separate either. When it takes the best of the cultures that surrounds us, whether we're talking about philosophy or music or food or any other kind of thought, this is where Judaism is at its best. Not separation, not assimilation, but integration. Okay, you can wake up again now, because we're going to move from the highbrow philosophy of Philo-Judaeus to a relatively lowbrow movie, My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Lessons from the Greeks. Raise your hand if you remember this movie. Okay, a lot of you remember this movie. Fabulous movie. Before I get into it and its lessons, I want to just revel in the idea that this past summer, I got to officiate at a wedding that they called My Big Fat Greek Jewish Wedding. Shana Dines, Ian Wagner, owing to Ian's partially Greek Jewish heritage, they called it My Big Fat Greek Jewish Wedding. And it was fun. It was copious amounts of food. It was, lots of family community, and it was really loud. I mean, I know that only the people who were there can appreciate how loud everything was. I'm not just talking about the DJ or the band. I mean, it was just loud. So when I first saw My Big Fat Greek Wedding, my first immediate reaction to it was, this seems so Jewish. Because a lot of ethnic groups, as they've come to America, do similar things. And that movie, the whole sort of subculture and the interplay between outsiders and insiders, and the amount of family and the fun and the friendship and community centered around this life cycle event, and the arguing and the loud, right? That's what this movie was all about. But ultimately, what the lesson was about to me was joy, right? You only have so many moments where you can fully appreciate the joy that should be life with your family, with your friends, with the community. And to me, that's ultimately what My Big Fat Greek Wedding was all about. The message is essentially joy, which takes us back to Rosh Hashanah, Erev Rosh Hashanah, one of the lessons from the pandemic and from the book of Ecclesiastes, that if life is short and then you die, if everything seems in vain, whether you're rich or poor, or weak or strong, all we can do, says King Solomon, after all was said and done, he said, I learned that it is better to rejoice and do good during all our days. It's ultimately joy, simply joy. And you might say, it's not that simple, you see, but then again, it just may be. It's really all about joy. And so the lessons from today, we have from the Maccabees, don't veer too far in either direction of assimilation or separation. Lesson from Philo Judaeus, integration, taking the best of what is ours and the surrounding culture. And finally, from My Big Fat Greek Wedding, it's ultimately all about joy. And that, my friends, is the alpha and omega of these high holiday sermons. And whether it comes from Alpha, Delta, and Omicron, lessons from the pandemic, as we talked about on Erev Rosh Hashanah, or from deepening ritual practice, which we talked about on the first day of Rosh Hashanah through my struggles in trying to do tefillin at the synagogue in Athens on my honeymoon, regardless of whether or not people love dead Jews more than living Jews, ultimately, our sacred purpose and my hope and my prayer for all of you is that this year, 5783, that we rejoice and do good for others for all of our days. Shana Tova. All right, we are going to continue now with our Musaf service. Which will begin with the Chatzi Kaddish, which is actually at the bottom of 298.
Ooh,
Private Amidah, pages 300 to 311. going to repeat the Amidah now back on page 313. Please rise. We invite very new members, Ari Haber and Beryl Sanders, to come up and open the ark for the Unitonitorium.
חוקותיך, ויקום בחסד כיסאך, ותשב עליו באמת, ותשב עליו באמת. אמת כי אתה כדיין מוכיח ויודע בעת, וחותם וחותם וסופר ומונה, ותזכור כל הנשכחות, ותפתח את ספר זיכרונות, ומעליו יקרב אותם יד כל אדמות, ושופר גדול ייתקע, וכל דממה דקה יישמע, ומלאכים יחפזון, וחיל רדה יאחזון, ויאמרו הנה יום הדין, לפקוד על צבא מרום בדין, כי לא יזכו מניך בדין, וכל באי עולם יעברו לפניך כפני מרום, כבקרת רועה דרור, מעביר צאנו תחת שלטון. כן תעביר ותספור ותמנה, ותפקוד נפש כל חי, ותחתוך קצבה לכל בריאה, ותכתוב את גזר דינם, מראש השנה יתגתנו, וביום צום כיפור יחתנו, מראש השנה יתגתנו, וביום צום כיפור יחתנו.
Kippur to seal how many will pass on and how many will be born, who will live and who will die, who will live a long life and who will come to an untimely end, who will perish by fire and who by water, who by sword and who by beast, who by hunger and who by thirst, who by earthquake and who by plague, who will be strangled and who will be stoned, who will be at peace and who will be troubled, who will be serene and who will be disturbed, who will be tranquil and who will be tormented, who will be impoverished and who will be enriched, who will be brought low and who will be raised up. But Teshuvah, Tefillah, and Tzedakah have the power to transform the harshness of our destiny. Each person's origin is dust, and each person returned to the earth having spent life seeking sustenance. Scripture compares human beings to a broken shard, withering grass, a shriveled flower, a passing shadow, a fading cloud, a fleeting breeze, scattered dust, vanishing green. And you are the sovereign, living God, ever present. Your years never end, your time has no measure, the extent of your glory can never be imagined, there is no understanding of the mystery of your nature. Your name befits you, you befit your name, and you have linked our name with yours. The ark is now closed, remain standing for the Kedusha, page 317.
נצח נצחים קדושת הנפש, ושפחת אלוהינו מכאילו ימוש לעולם ועד. כי המלך גדול וקדוש אתה.
You may be seated. We turn actually to page 321 for the final stanza for Kohamamini. Top of 323.
את יום הכיפורים חזר, לבחינת סליחה ולכפרה, ולמנע בו את כל עוונותינו, מקרא קודש זכר ציון מצרים.
We turn to page 325. We rise for the Great Aleinu. We invite Alan Berman and Sandy Thomas to come up and open the ark. And anyone else who wishes to come on up to the bima or in the sides of the aisles, wherever you can. This is, as we did in Rosh Hashanah, where we lie down prostrate. It's the only time in the Jewish tradition where we really do that. So. We jump to page 346 for Shema Aleinu. We might as well leave the ark open now. People can go back toward their seats because we also open it for this, although we don't always hear, but we will since it's already open. 346. close the ark. We turn to the top of page 347. We can be seated. First stanza in Hebrew responsibly, second in English responsibly, third back in Hebrew responsibly. Conversation. We've sinned against you through condescension. Top of 354, Kohanim and Levites, please proceed immediately to the social hall. Several more coming, so we'll pause for just a few moments just in silent thought if possible.
Eloheinu v'yavoteinu, barkeinu b'bracha, hameshuleshet b'Torah, haktuva yedei Moshe avdecha, hamora b'piyah hamavana, kohanim amtiroshecha k'amor.
Please rise. Kohanim recite the blessing.
Shalom Olam Tova Bracha Teva Chesed Rachmanim Aleinu V'Choyzer Alamecha Barkeinu Avinu Kulanu Techa V'Yoach Panecha Timor Panecha Natata Lanu Adonai Eloheinu Torah Chaim V'Ahavat Chesed U'Tzedakah U'Bracha V'Rachamim V'Chaim V'Shalom V'tov beinecha l'varech et Amcha Yisrael v'choleinu v'chol shabi shlomecha v'sefer hayim v'racha v'shalom u'parnasa tova mizacher v'mikater lefanecha Elohim Chaim, Modveinu B'Sefer HaChaim, Nakatu V'Atem Adbekim Adonai Elechem, Chaim Kulchem Hayom.
The ark is now open. We invite Sandy Gross and Paula Ryman, who are up here, also newer members of the synagogue, to open the ark for Hayom, 358.
Ayom te'amseinu, amen. Ayom te'barleinu, amen. Ayom te'galeinu, amen, amen. Ayom tivreshenu letova, amen, amen. Ayom tivtevenu lechayim tovim, amen. Ayom tishma shabbatenu, amen, amen. Ayom tekabel merachamim uvratzon et tefilatenu, amen. Ayom tiknehenu v'imim tikecha, amen, 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 amen. Kehayom hazeh tavienu sasim sehem u'minyan shalem, nakatu v'yad v'kiyecha, tavioti v'hashoshiv simchati v'vetfilati, hireti v'tfila yikarel cholami, u'tzedaka u'bracha v'rachamim v'chaim v'shalom, yelanu l'chol Yisrael Adonam, Baruch atah Adonai, oseh hashalom.
Kedesh Shalem, 359.
Yikara v'ikara shalei rabbi, ve'omad v'rachirtei yamucha hotel chai panu yamachon chai nechol beit Yisrael, v'agalav yifan chari v'yimeru. Ye'ishnei rabbi v'hora, ve'olam ve'omaya yirah. Yiparach yishabach yibar v'rman yinaseh, v'tadar v'tala v'talash v'yureshah. Le'ela, le'ela, l'komer katav shirata, tishbachata v'nechamata, dam yiram v'yoma v'yimeru. Tikata slotan v'aton d'chol Yisrael, chaytam v'vachon yivishmaya v'yimeru. Yehe ishlam harabami, shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al Yisrael. Yayrai, yayrai, yayrai,
A few announcements as we break. 2 o'clock in the chapel with Rabbi Berlin, Life After Death and Yom Kippur. It's 2 p.m. in the chapel. 4:30 is when we reconvene for Martyrology, Mincha, and eventually Nehila. 7:20, I believe, is when we will end tonight. That's for break the fast, when 3 stars will be theoretically appearing. I also want to introduce Mayor Libby Schaff. Stand up for a second. I don't know where she's.
Right there. You're right.
All right. Oh, yeah. Usually you're on that side. So thank you, Mayor. Thank you for being here. And I want to thank you also again for years of service and for showing up this, about a year ago. We had that anti-Semitism in the yard. And just, sorry, indulge me, friends, but just a brief story which I actually told at the candidates for mayoral forum, which is there's a rabbi who is on his deathbed, and his disciples ask him, why is he crying? And he doesn't answer. They say, how can you be crying? You've done so much. Look at all the students you've raised for for Torah, and look at all the good deeds that you've done. And never once did you do it for your own ego. You didn't stand up and have to be in charge of everything. And he says, well, that's exactly why I'm crying. I could have served, but I didn't. And so as you come to your term's end, thank you so much for your service to our community. It's greatly appreciated. We know it's not an easy job, so thank you. In addition to those things, and Mincha, please, at the end of Ne'ilah, anyone who knows how to make a tekiah gadola, feel free to bring your shofar. We'll do the full shofar and chorus. I'll be walking around the lake most likely, and I know some of you will be too. Some call have an easy fast or have a meaningful fast, whichever term you prefer. Gamar Chatiman Tova.
Thank you.